going on. 2 months ago, I decided to take training a little bit more seriously. I decided to stop messing around and be more consistent with my training and my diet. I didn't crash diet, I didn't do no 30-day challenges, I wasn't doing anything crazy or anything like that. I just decided to pull my finger out and make a bit of a change in myself. 2 months ago, this is where I was. I was unhappy, I was not overweight, but I just wasn't happy with the way I viewed myself in the mirror, or the numbers that were being shown on the scales, you know, the food that I was eating. Basically, I had a dad bod. I had no structure, no discipline, and no accountability really. And this is where I'm at now. The reason I started training was because I didn't like the way I viewed myself. I wouldn't say that I was depressed, but I just didn't like the way I looked. I was getting stretch marks around my waist, my tummy was starting to overhang, and I just didn't feel confident in myself anymore. You know, I had no discipline, and I wanted to be more disciplined and more consistent and better with myself. When I started training, I was around 75 to 80 kilos. I don't know what that is in pounds, but that's what it is in kilos. I was probably around 25% body fat, and I just wasn't happy with the way I looked. When I first started training, the scales didn't move as fast as I wanted it to move. But the things I did notice is that my strength was improving and my form was improving. And over time, there was some visual changes that I started to like and started to see about myself. And the scales don't always tell the full story. Sometimes the scales will hold water, sometimes it'll say this, sometimes it'll say that. One day you're less weight, the next day you're up more weight. So the scales just sometimes are unreliable when you're at the stage of where I was. My current training plan, my current training structure, I have no PT or anything like that. I just go in, do my thing and get out. But my current split is push-pull legs from Monday to Saturday, and my Sunday is my rest day, which is today. Today is Sunday. When I train, I do progressive overload. When I started, I would pick a weight where I could only do 12 comfortably, and then I'd slowly progress, and then I'd do another 12 for the next weight, and then progress, do another weight. But instead now, I've decided to jump to a weight where I can only do 8 reps. So I start off, for example, dumbbell bench press. I don't do flat bench press because I've had a forearm injury. I don't know if you can see it, but I've had a forearm injury in the past. So I do dumbbell stuff. With that, I'll pick a weight where I can only do 8 reps times 3, and I'll progress over the weeks until I get to 12 reps. Once I get to 12 reps times 3 for each set, I then jump my weight to the very next weight, not the very next, but the weight that I feel like I'm not gonna push it very easily. So that's my progressive overload. I've also started, instead of chasing weight, I've started to chase form and execution. So instead of me pumping the weight out, I'll take my time with it. I'll 3-second, like I push it, and then a slow 2 to 3 second eccentric, but I'll do a positive, for example, and then I'll bring it down, slow negative, and then a positive, and then a slow negative. But that's kind of my thing, you know. I've stopped chasing the weight and I've started to focus on quality reps and proper form. My diet, when I first started my diet, I wasn't counting calories. I was hoping for the best. I wasn't tracking my protein or anything like that. I was just spraying and praying, you know. When I first started to take things a bit seriously, I started to track my calories, and I was doing around 1,800 calories, 1,800 calories, just so I could kind of slowly progress. That was my very first month. I guess you could call it a recomp is what I was doing. My second month in, and I have decided to drop my calories down to 1,700. So I've only taken an extra 100 calories off. You know, I chose sustainability over rapidity. You know, I'd rather take my time with things than crash diet, make my mentals all effed up and everything like that, and just hate the process. So what I've done is, you know, taking things a little bit slower. So my macros for my 1700 calorie intake, my protein is 190 grams. My fats stay around 50. 50 is on the higher end. I like to keep it around 40 to 45 personally. And my carbs sit around the 130 mark, because if I have too less carbs, my muscles don't fuel and I just have no energy. I just start to abuse my calorie intake because carbs are very easy to eat. So they're my macros, and I've started to eat more sustainable food, more filling food for things that keeps me fuller for longer and stuff like that. You know, I chose sustainability over speed. This is my current physique today as of filming and recording. That is my current physique. I'm not shredded, I don't feel lean, I don't feel shredded, but I can see micro changes, micro adjustments. Every time I take photos monthly, I take one at the start of the month and then the start of the next month, and I've noticed a change. My body fat right now is still double digits, I'm not gonna lie. It's probably around 19-20% body fat. It's a lot better than where I was 2 months ago, I'll say that. You know, I actually compare myself to unrealistic versions of myself. You know, my old bad habits, you know, I'm starting to flush them out. I'm starting to get rid of them, and I'm starting to focus on the better things. You know, I'm becoming more disciplined, I'm becoming more motivated, I'm becoming more confident in myself with my shirt off, or, you know, in public settings where fucking I can have my shirt off. If I go to the beach, I don't have to be like, nah, I don't want to swim. You know, I feel good about, I'm starting to feel better about myself. I'm starting to be more consistent. My old habits to new habits, I would eyeball my meals, I would be inconsistent, I would even train half-assed. I'd show up, do 1 or 2 sets of something, go to the next machine, do about 3 exercises and call it a day. Whereas now, I have to do like what I have in mind. I need to do a minimum of like 6 machines or fucking 5 machines. Before, I used to hope and pray that change would happen, whereas now if I put the work in, I can actually see the change that I'm making in myself and stuff like that. So I'm starting to feel more confident in myself and everything like that. The biggest lesson that I've taken away from this, you know, 2-month journey is that my progress is a lot slower than I expected. And, you know, that's because I'm not crash dieting, I'm not eating nothing a day. You know, I need sustainability, I'm trying to build muscle, and I'm trying to lose fat at the same time. I'm not trying to lose weight, or I'm not trying to bulk right now. I'm just trying to be sustainable, you know? Change takes patience. Instead of comparing myself to other people, I would compare myself to where I was to where I am now, which is my key takeaway from this. So, you know, there's always going to be someone who's been training longer than you. There's going to be someone who's bigger or fitter than you. But instead of comparing yourself to other people, compare yourself to the old version of you. So that's my biggest lesson. And like, to wrap this all up, like, I'm not where I want to be, but I'm definitely not where I was 2 months ago. And that alone is enough for me to progress in this whole journey. So thank you all for sticking around and watching this. Let's rip.